So there's a lot of misconceptions about masculinity, the way you should move, carry yourself, speak as a man. There's a lot of preconceived notions about hiding your emotions is true strength. The problem comes is that when you're in a relationship and you're trying to communicate, this stoicism, this mastering your emotions idea falls completely apart. Your communication becomes very logical, very disconnected, and this creates a massive gap between you and your partner. So in this video, I'm going to break down why talking like a man in a relationship is going to ruin things. I'm going to talk about how these toxic myths about masculinity are wrecking your connection and communication. And then I'm going to give you 3 strategies to turn it all around. The fact is that women talk differently from men. Men talk very logically. Women talk very emotionally. And there's this misconception that talking emotionally is a weakness. But this is a lie. In fact, if you master emotional communication, talking like a woman, then this can be the manliest thing that you could ever do. So I know what a lot of you may be thinking. I was there too. This whole deal about being manly, being strong, being logical, being stoic. These are all these preconceptions about what being manly means, what being masculine means. And this whole idea of being feminine is a weakness as a man when it comes to relationships. There's this big divide into men should be men, women should be women, and the two should never be mixed, right? I've actually done a much deeper dive video, which I'll link to above and in the description down below. But this idea of being manly, about being dominating, being stoic, or hiding your feelings is a lie. This in itself is actually a weakness, and here's why. As a man, if you can't speak the emotional language of your relationship, you're going to keep hitting the same wall over and over again. You mistake logic for solutions, and you end up dismissing feelings and eroding trust. And that in itself is not strength. It's not strength to ignore a skill to learn. It's not strength to deny the fact that we all have emotions. This is emotional laziness. So this idea of talking like a man, talking logically, strong, dominating, actually becomes your biggest weakness. But shifting it to talking like a woman, and we're going to discuss what this means in a second, by focusing on emotional connection, actually becomes your biggest strength. Being an emotionally available leader actually ends up building a connection between the people that you're speaking with, especially your partner, and leading the way to intimacy and security. So first of all, I want to break down the difference between men and women. Now, this is going to be generalized, and this isn't going to be applied to every single person in the world. There's obviously a million different nuances here. But overall, if you think about, in general, the way that men try to talk very logically. They try to talk very rationally. They try to talk very solution-based. And this is important in a lot of situations. Now, women can also do this. It's not exclusive to men, but this is just a general observation. If you observe how women speak, women talk very emotionally. They talk a lot about feelings. They spend a lot of time in discovery. And this is useful in certain situations. And everyone has varying levels of these two sort of masculine and feminine traits. Whether you're a man, woman, in between, doesn't really matter. Everyone has a certain balance of the way that they communicate. Now, the problem is that as a guy, most of the time, we spend this time in logic, solutions, reasoning, which can be effective in certain environments. The problem is that always using the same tool over and over again becomes very ineffective. If you end up trying to use a hammer as a chisel, then you're going to end up with terrible results. So it's really important to learn different tools for different situations. If you come into your relationship and your partner has a problem and they're trying to tell you their feelings about the problem, if you're approaching it with logic, with reason, with solutions, you may think that you're doing the right thing, but ultimately what you're doing is causing more damage. You're using a hammer as a chisel, right? And you end up making things worse. So as guys, we get stuck up in this idea that emotions are something that should be avoided, should be ignored, and should be hidden and kept away. And ultimately, this means that we end up talking so much like a man that we end up ignoring the emotional side of things. Now, this isn't just about a man talking to a woman. This is about being able to connect to somebody emotionally. Even as a guy talking to another guy, learning to speak emotionally, like a lot of women do, is going to be one of the manliest tools that you can learn. If masculinity and masculine actions are about coming to solutions, the most masculine thing that you can do is learn to talk femininely in order to build a better solution emotionally with your partner. In general, men make a lot of mistakes in approaching challenges in relationships. The first mistake is treating emotions like a problem to fix. This is where this logic trap comes in. When your partner says, I feel overwhelmed, and you respond with, well, what you need to do is you need to delegate more tasks. You miss the point entirely. You're treating your partner's feelings like a faulty car engine to repair, instead of showing empathy and validation. And again, this isn't leadership. This is avoidance disguised as competence. Building emotional intelligence isn't about fixing. It's about witnessing. It's about discovery. It's about data collection. Your role is to say something along the lines of, this sounds really tough. I'm here for you. What do you need right now? This is not about developing a fix to a problem right now. The second mistake is buying into this myth that vulnerability equals weakness. In general, men often avoid emotional conversations because they think being vulnerable will make them look weak. This is complete bullshit. Vulnerability is a core need in Maslow's hierarchy. If you believe in science or you believe in psychology, look at Maslow's hierarchy. Right next to love and belonging, vulnerability is one of these core needs. If you can't show up vulnerably, then you're denying both yourself and your partner what is needed for the relationship to thrive. So talking about feelings isn't talking like a woman in a derogatory sense. It's talking like a complete human being. That is mastering your emotions. That is learning a new skill. And that in itself is coming to a solution to a problem, which is avoiding emotions, right? This is coming to a solution. Another big mistake is letting poor mindsets breed toxicity. So a lot of men think that their role is to be the rational one and that their partner's emotions are irrational storms to weather. You got to sit there, tie yourself to the mast and just hold on for the best. But this mindset is really, really toxic. It assumes that your mindset, your ideas are superior. And as a result of this, you end up looking down on your partner. You look down on them as less than a human being, as someone who has not mastered their emotions. When ultimately, ironically, you are the person that hasn't mastered your emotions. Because if you're unable to build empathy and understanding towards a fellow human being, then you haven't mastered your emotions as much as you think you have. And ultimately, as a result of this creates contempt. And this is the biggest relationship killer. You end up excusing your own approach, but end up criticizing your partner's emotions. And this builds a fast track to resentment. The reality is that you're not above emotions. The logical male archetype is a cultural myth. It's not a biological truth. And if you're unwilling to engage emotionally, it's not strength, it ends up being fear. And if you can't face up to that, then there's a bigger problem ahead, right? So what do we need to do? How do we develop this emotional communication? And just before I move forward onto this, if you do want more videos like this on repairing, rebuilding, and regrowing relationships, then feel free to subscribe to my channel for new videos every single week. Well, the first step is to learn how to actively listen and validate. So this is where you stop assuming that your job is to provide solutions. So as a partner in a relationship, yes, solutions are important, right? But it's not the main point. Learning to focus on active listening, on being able to discover, data collect, validate. This is the smartest, manliest thing that you can do. And this is what women in general master. They spend a lot of time in data collection. They spend a lot of time talking through things without jumping to solutions. They validate each other. They learn and understand and develop. You can't come up with a good solution unless you spend a lot of time understanding the problem first, because otherwise you end up half-assing it, right? And this is what happens when you try to come up with a solution to your partner. You haven't spent enough time in data collection and you end up half-assing a solution. So, if your partner's coming to you saying, I feel like I can't do anything right. If you're coming through saying, hey, here's all the things that you've done right, you've already skipped through to, hey, don't worry about this. Think over here. You end up skipping to a solution, which is just think something different, instead of spending the time to listen, to understand, to get them to help guide them through their feelings. Instead of rushing to a solution, you could ask questions. Hey, what is it that makes you feel that way? Is it, this chain of events that happened here? Or if you feel like you have a good understanding of what is going on, you can validate. I think I can understand where you're coming from. Like when I look at what's happened recently and the way that things have ended up, I think maybe I'd be questioning my competence a little bit. Not that you are incompetent, but maybe just looking at things recently and feeling to myself, is this a pattern that I'm always going to have to live through? But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're feeling something different. Taking the time to lead the conversation in understanding is very masculine. That is leadership, because it shows that you value your partner's experience. You value understanding your partner, even if you don't fully understand it, because you are a different person. And what this does is this builds what we call emotional safety, which I've done a longer video, which I'll link to up above and in the description down below. But it builds emotional safety. It builds a safe space for your partner to be able to come to you for solutions if they need them. And it deepens trust and it encourages openness. So take the time to practice this, deepening your validation, actively listening, taking the time to understand, and paraphrasing back what you hear without offering advice. Next, it's really important to express vulnerability without shame. So being vulnerable isn't just about letting them talk. It's also about you showing up authentically as well. So instead of saying, I'm fine when you're stressed, try, actually, I'm kind of feeling a lot of pressure lately. It feels kind of hard. Showing up in this way shows to your partner that you can experience emotions without becoming lost in them. And this helps to also build trust because it shows that you're being honest. You're not just pretending like everything's okay, like this is easy street. You're actually showing vulnerability, but without being so vulnerable that you need constant reassurance from your partner or you're breaking down in tears. Learning how to do this takes time. When you open up, you set the tone for mutual connection. Your partner will also start to open themselves up as well. And this is leadership in action. You go first, you show that it's safe to share. And this is what strong leaders do. Again, if masculine energy is about solving problems, this is solving a problem using feminine solutions. You don't have to be one or the other. You can choose when it is appropriate. The truth is, vulnerability is magnetic. It shows that you're self-aware and secure, which pulls your partner closer in instead of pushing them away. So using things like I feel statements and avoiding blame. Blaming shuts people down. Emotional ownership opens them up. So instead of saying, you never listen to me, try, I feel ignored when we're talking. And it kind of hurts. This takes responsibility for your feelings and it invites your partner to understand rather than defend. And this cuts through defensiveness and it gets to the root of the issue. Because the truth is, if you refuse to engage emotionally, if you refuse to start to learn to talk more emotionally, then you're not just risking a rocky relationship, you're guaranteeing that it's going to collapse. The walls that you build with logic and avoidance will eventually box both of you in. Your partner is going to feel unheard, unsupported, and unloved, and you'll feel unappreciated and misunderstood. This is how you create a divide between your partner and yourself. You end up guaranteeing resentment, loneliness, and a breakup is going to build up over time. And is that really the legacy that you want for your relationship? Ultimately, this is about building your standards. It's very easy to blame. It's very weak to blame. But learning how to lead and take ownership and take accountability for the relationship is about raising standards. You know, a lot of members have come to me in a state where the relationship is broken up, it's broken down. They've gone through a divorce, they've gone through separation, but taking this responsibility and learning how to lead the relationship in the right direction turns everything around. And it all revolves around talking like a woman, talking femininely, talking emotionally. And this is why I have so much success with the members that I work with, is because they're learning the right skills in order to take the relationship in the right direction. And if you do want to join us, then join me on my free relationship bootcamp, where you'll learn the same steps and tools that all of my members start with to start repairing and rebuilding and regrowing their relationship from the ground up. Just click on the link in the description to grab your spot today. But don't mistake leadership for control. These are very different things. And oftentimes, especially as a guy, we can get mixed up as to which is which. So I've actually done a deeper dive video into leading a relationship, which I'll link to on the screen. But ultimately, leadership and control are two very different things. In order to lead by example, you need to relinquish control. And as a result of that, you end up becoming a much more effective leader. So I'm going to leave you with that deep dive video into leading a relationship, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys.